Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we are taking on Lilisette Shinryu. I am recording over a previous recording, so I'm just commentating over a fight that I did. And I enjoy doing this so much, I'm doing it for the second time, because I just finished recording this whole voiceover, and my microphone had just done an update, and in OBS I had to retell it to use the microphone, so I literally, nothing was coming out of my mouth. So that's pretty frustrating, but you know what? We'll do it one more time because I liked it so much. But basically what I'm doing in this fight here is I'm not doing the Enacro cheese. I said that I'm going to try not to do that all the time. But I am doing Tifa cheese, so, you know, Tifa. I mean, it's not really cheese, but Tifa's just busted. So we got Tifa, Lunafreya, and I'm using Lilisette here, and I'm not using a friend unit, so I'm trying to get all these missions done. So I know there's a mission for having Lilisette in the party, and then one for not having a friend. So I'm pretty much getting all the mission rewards here. And I'm actually glad I brought Lilisette here because it does really showcase her abilities, and this fight is really made to do that. Because basically these enemies have like ridiculous brave damage reduction, so like basically this whole fight I'm doing once. You can see everything I do is just one brave damage. So they're really showcasing Lilisette for her battery and showing how she can just battery over that and make it kind of irrelevant. Tifa does that as well though. But that's part of it. And then the other thing that is significant about when you have heavy brave damage reduction, it allows the enemies to build up brave, and you really can't stop it, right? Like, you can't break them, you can't get them, you know, their brave damage down. So they're really showcasing Lilisette's sap, because what's going to happen is these enemies, before their turn, they're going to do a big brave gain, and basically they're going to show numbers that would kill me. But then Lilisette's sap goes off, saps them down to 0. They don't really get anything off of that, and then basically at 0 brave, I can then break them even with 1 brave damage. So they did a good job of showcasing that as well with Lilisette. The other thing I do here in this video is I do show off Lilisette as a force charger, and I do show off her flexible force times. Now I do end up using 2 force times in this video, you know, because with the brave damage reduction, it's a little bit harder to just like one turn burst them down, and I'm using Tifa, who's single target. You know, if I brought in Renoa that was more AoE, she could probably burst them down a lot quicker. But this fight went pretty smooth. It wasn't too bad. You know, it's not that hard of a fight if you know, I can walk into this. Initially, I walked in and I didn't research the fight at all. I just basically popped in and did the fight, and it worked out just fine. So, definitely not a difficult fight. I feel like this is a fight, you know, unlike the Spiritus Tree, this is a fight that you could bring a lot of different team comps to and win and be fine. So it is a lot of fun that way, and I do think I want to try and maybe do this with a defense comp. So some other things that these enemies are doing is they do, if you actually let them get to their force time, which I don't let them do in here. I did read up on the fight a little bit afterwards. But if you let them get to their force time, they actually do a hit that will auto-kill you. Unless you have debuffs on them, and basically that the damage you take will decrease based on the number of debuffs, but if you let them go into force time without a debuff on, you will get auto-killed. Now that's not a very strict thing at all, because debuffs are so easy to put on, whether it be with a call, or most characters at least put on 1 debuff, right? So that's not too bad of a restriction. And then they go between like a couple of different phases. Like they have like an ultimate mode, they have like a Marlboro one where they can debuff you and do a bunch of shenanigans. But in one of their modes, I think it's like the ultimate mode, they reduce all brave damage to 1, or they have like a bajillion% brave damage reduction. So that part of that is going on, but then they also have an elemental resist where basically they lock out every element. So any element you use is resisted. So that's part of the reason we're also just doing ones here the whole way through. But it's fine. We just brave gain over it, and it's good. So watch the enemies take their turns now. And this is showcasing Lilisette. You see he brave gained up to 17,000. Could have killed us, but then the sap goes before he goes, and then he's harmless, 0. And now they're sitting at 0, so even at doing 1 brave damage, we're still going to break them. So that's really, really nice. A nice way to showcase some of what Lilisette can do, which is very cool. Now, for my first force, I do opt for Tifa, because I'm kind of curious how well her force operates here. And what we're going to find is that Tifa is actually getting like only 63% a turn. So not as much as I would like. So then what I do for the second force time is I actually go into Lilisette. And Lilisette we get over 70% a turn, which is pretty good. But Tifa still does pretty well here. So what happens is I start going in on this right enemy. And the right enemy does something that's that I thought was scary. It ended up not being scary at all, but once again, I didn't know much about this fight going in. But as you hit these thresholds, the enemies will change battle modes, and then they have a thing that comes up that says their turn became instantaneous. And so what I thought that was going to mean was that they're going to just jump cut turns and like kill me or something, so I was kind of scared of that. So what happens with Tifa here is I'm taking a few turns before I go into burst phase. So I hit a beat rush here, then I think I'm going to do a full throttle. Right? I'm pretty sure I go, yep, full throttle. And then I think after this I just hop right into burst phase. Now ideally what I would do here is I would go into burst phase at 8 turns of force, come out of it, and then be able to pop my summon, but my summon isn't built up enough yet. I rushed in like pretty darn quick, which is fine. And then on the second force time, I actually finish them off before the force time ends, so I don't get to use my summon at all in this fight, which is fine. But here you can see even with the 1 brave damage on everything, like LDs, burst attacks. So it's all about brave gains. Like you really want brave gains here, right, to do well. So there's a 7 mil shot, and then so he goes into Marlboro mode, and then it said turns become instantaneous. Now once again, I really didn't look much at the fight. I'm just like, well, if I bring Lilisette, that's who they want me to bring. I should just be able to cook this fight, and we do. It didn't really matter, but I didn't really know what that meant was going to happen. So my thought was when I came out of this burst time, I was like, all right, they're going to jump cut turns and do something nasty. So I decide to actually focus all of my damage on the right enemy and try to take him out during the burst phase, right? So I really just kind of do it 1 enemy at a time, which is a pretty decent strategy with Tifa. I think the days are gone, like, because a big mechanic fights used to have, and this is way back, like, even before Lunafreya was a thing. I mean, Lunafreya fights I think did it too, but it was more like Chaos era and then into Lunafreya era. But it was a really big deal that these enemies would go into like a rage mode if you killed the other enemy, and they would get like really hard. I don't really see that happening. And maybe, here's the thing, it's something where they could have had a mechanic, but like the Shinryu era is such a nuke era that you like skip so many mechanics. So that could be a thing, but here it wasn't anything. Like I killed one, the other enemy didn't care, he just does his normal thing. So I don't think they do that mechanic as much, but it might still be out there. Once again, when you're nuking 60 mil launches for Enna Crow, you skip a lot of mechanics, we'll put it that way. But yeah, so we go through, and I do have some launches going on here. Now launches are very ineffective in this fight unless you've got, so the thing that's really hindered here is, you know, Tifa here, she brave gains herself, which is great, but she doesn't have party brave gains. So you see here in the launches, my characters just have like no damage going into the launch, and then you can try to brave damage up and give yourself brave, but you're only doing like 2 to 4 brave damage, so you can't even like brave gain properly without like a brave gain effect. So launching isn't quite as effective here. Now I think someone like Reigns would do really well here because Reigns has that attack at the end, and Reigns is obviously still featured here, so they do want Reigns to look good, and I think this does kind of feature Reigns a little bit for that, because once again, if you're only doing ones, you need somebody who can brave gain like during the launch to give you that damage. So we come out of it, and that right enemy didn't do anything. So I don't know if that instantaneous turn doesn't trigger until he actually gets a turn, and then maybe he would get back-to-back turns. Or maybe something with me going through so many phases kind of glitched it. But I didn't see anything here that resembled an instantaneous turn. They're just letting me do my thing. So I was scared, but it didn't really matter. So, and what I did was, you notice I intentionally didn't attack the right enemy on the last burst attack. It was because they were only at 5%, and I had my highest gauge. So I would have been wasting damage on that enemy. So I poured that damage into the left enemy to take a big chunk out of them. And then I figured, sure, let's just go into another force time. And on the second force time, I do opt for Lilisette. And what's really good about Lilisette's force, and I talked about this on her character guide, I talked about this on the Should You Pull, but it's just such an easy to use force. There's literally no setup involved. You literally can pop the force and just play the fight without thinking, and you're going to get 70-something% every time you go. Literally the only quote-unquote setup you have to do with the Lilisette is to make sure they have 8 debuffs. Lilisette's already doing 5, so it's literally, if your characters aren't already naturally putting 3 debuffs on, it's literally press 1 call button. That's your setup. You just bring a call that can put the debuffs on. Now, in this force time, and here I'm showcasing Lilisette can be a force charger, so I'm just using Lilisette to kind of go nuts, and I think I just opt to go all the way. I just force charge with her and go right into her own force, right? So this showcases so many good facets of what Lilisette does. It's showcasing her brave gains because it's making it, you can see like every turn with Lilisette, we're going to be capped brave, and then we're just doing a bunch of damage on our dumps. And then her sap, you see that coming in clutch when the enemies take turns. They normally would kill us, but then we sap them down. And then seeing her awesome FR at work, we're going to see that right here, which is very good. And we're not really showcasing the healing, but she heals too. So she's just a really good all-in-one support. But there's the sap. You're seeing that, right? They're basically in purple going to kill us. Now we're in force time. Now I did make a mistake here. I should have popped a call before going into it, because all my calls I brought were debuff calls. But the enemies only have 7 debuffs and not 8, but it's fine. The way Tifa's set up, we are still getting 73% every turn. So this is actually more than we were getting during Tifa's actual force time. So yeah, we just go ahead and pop through here with Tifa and just let her do Tifa things, and we finish this fight off no problem. So it's literally now just a matter of doing our attacks. Tifa, what's so great about her is, you know, normally you do the first big force time, you use the burst phase, and it's like, well, my setup with that character is kind of over now because I can't just take a bunch of turns. But Tifa just conveniently happens to have a free instant turn move, so you can basically just keep spamming that, and it's like a Tifa burst phase, because all of her attacks do really good damage. You don't have to do her LD, you don't have to do beat rush. We can sit here and just use her 35 attack and just spam it. Now, I do decide to opt to use, I think I do use Rains here to get some launching. But once again, you see the launching is quite ineffective. So, on this turn, though, I mean, this is fine using it at a high percent, because we still get a lot of damage, because we're going to get all the launch damage here. And then Rains does do the follow-up still. So, this actually could have been better to do even later in the force time to get more damage out. I mean, it doesn't matter. We definitely finished this guy off. But yeah, when our allies have no Brave and Tifa's not party Brave gaining, the launches are pretty pointless. Okay, so we go into this launch, we can Brave attack. Oh, 2 Brave, great. 4 Brave, fantastic. So now I'm going to HP dump that 4 and that 2. Now we do get like a natural like turn Brave gain there, but it's still very low. But at this point, you might as well just attack with that, because you're not going to get much Brave by Brave attacking, so you might as well put some damage down. So this fight definitely does do a lot to like hinder how much damage you can do, but we're just so overpowered with like what Tifa's doing and the Brave gaining that we just power through it and it doesn't matter. So that's the nice thing about Lilisette, is we can Brave gain through, and that's the nice thing about not doing a Spiritist fight with an annoying tree with 700 mechanics and 200 million HP. We can actually get through the fight reasonably, but Tifa's just going to go through and finish off. The other reason we really rushed into the second force time fast is, one, I didn't want them to get their force time because I didn't know what it did. So I figured it could have been scary because this was before I actually read their info. But 2 is you want to get into it while Tifa still has her burst effect up, because you want the water kick somersaults. Any turn you take with Tifa before the second force time, you're just wasting somersault water kicks that could be doing a lot more damage. And that's really what makes her damage so good, is getting those extra follow-ups. And then, so right here, I think the enemy is gone. So, 17 mil on that last shot. We still have some extra turns of force. So, you know, you probably could get this done in 1 force time with better setup. For sure, with Enna Crow, she would probably just nuke it. But there you go. Not too bad. We got through the fight. Lilisette, Tifa, and Lunafreya. Let me know what you guys think of this fight. Let me know how you guys did and what team you used. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.